We appreciate everyone for staying with us on Global Morning today. At the top of the program this morning, we did hints about developments coming out from the state, particularly in light of the suspended local government chairman. Of course, we also had been told a couple of days ago that a panel set out to look at the books and time in office, as brief as that may sound to some people, and then revert to the state governor on their findings, submitted their reports a few days earlier, and then we are told by some estimates that panel has indicted not just this local government chairman who have been on suspension for a while, but the immediate past governor of the state, Mr. Godwin Obaseki, of having, some say misappropriated, others would say taking 96 billion naira from the coffers of these 18 local government councils. Now, some persons I've spoken to off television say that it's a single story that is being sold by Edo State's government because nobody really has heard the other side of the immediate past government. But ultimately, we also understand that this panel of inquiry is not a court of law, and as such, its reports is not definitive. Maybe that's the reason Governor Monday Okpebolo now says that he would petition the EFCC in this regard. How soon will that happen? What will be the implications? Well, I'm joined by someone who was pivotal in the government of immediate past Governor Godwin Obaseki. He was a commissioner in that state and is a staunch member of the People's Democratic Party, the PDP. Honorable Obede Ifaluyi Isibo. It's a pleasure to have you on the program.
Thank you so much, Oye. I'm happy to be here.
My delight. So let's start from the basics. I've heard members of your party say, well, the former governor did a lot of work in those states. And then that has become basis for back and forth between your party and the ruling of APC in the state. So by what metrics do we determine what Governor Obaseki had done in the state?
Well, thank you. Thank you again for having me. It's a pleasure to be here and a golden opportunity to engage Nigerians and indeed the Edo people, letting them know what they already know, right, and also announcing and appreciating and also amplifying the gains Edo has made in the last, let me say, a decade. You know, Edo got to a point where we became the cynosure of all eyes. Everybody wanted to know what is going on in Edo State. How are you guys able to achieve what you are achieving? With the meager resources allocated to you by the federal government, with the little money you get from IGRs, have you been able to generate so much and do so much in such a short time? Edo State was the only state in Nigeria that in 4 years were able to have 2 modular refineries, 2 ethanol plants. That was an amazing record set by the ingenuity of Godwin Obaseki. Edo State was the only state who was able to grow her GDP from 2 trillion naira in 2016 to about 7 trillion naira in 2024. Edo State tripled her taxpayers count from 131,000 to over 372,000 in the space of 8 years. So you could see that the government of Godwin Obaseki had a plan, they had a vision, they had a dream, they wrote it down. He put together sound minds on how to articulate this dream and, create this dream. And so Edo, made so much progress that we had other states, other subnationals come to find out what we're doing. We're the very first state to go paperless in West Africa. We got to the point where all government correspondence, mail, memos, were all happening on our ERP platform. As commissioner, I never had to sign on any paper document or had to write any memo. I had a smartphone and I could receive an alert on my phone whenever I got a mail or a memo from the governor or from my colleagues. And I had 48 hours to respond or I get a query. And that was what it was in the entire public and civil service. There was efficiency, there was effectiveness, and there was a reduction, of corruption. But sadly, in such a short time, in 100 days, Edo has slipped backwards in very resplendent measures. And it's baffling to the people. How come you're not able to institute, or create a leadership that also has the kind of vision that Governor Obaseki had? Government, they say, is a continuum, and one would have expected that since Edo was on a trajectory of progress, a government that would succeed that government would look at the book to say, okay, these are the things that they were doing that was right. Let us continue these things. Let us continue on that path of prosperity for the sake of the people. But sadly, many watchers and many other people believe that INEC colluded, with the police and the APC to select a leadership that they now have in Edo State, and the people have no confidence in that leadership.
Incidentally, we can't go into all that.
Yes, because yes. No, I wasn't going to go into the details of it, but this is what you hear on the mouths of Edo people. They don't have confidence that Monopoly is the governor, and this is the reason is because in a very short time we're seeing corruption come back in its full splendor in government.
But the government is not complaining that money is missing.
No, the same week Governor Perolo was inaugurated, we were told, according to the records, over 5 billion naira was given to one of his brothers to purchase vehicles for government. This money was not appropriated for by the House of Assembly. This money was not budgeted for. Nobody bidded for this contract. There was no procurement process. Is that not an impeachable offense? A few weeks after that, another 7.8 billion was given to someone else to buy Hiluxes for state governments without going through due process. There was no state tenders board to approve these contracts. We're seeing high level insecurity. Yesterday evening, there was a large hue and cry in Ubiaja. Kidnappers have invaded the community, stealing people from their homes, and it appears that there's no government to take care of these people. A few days ago, the Onoji of Udo was also kidnapped. We're seeing high rate of insecurity bounce back to the state, and we're wondering, Edo State government before now, we had a command and control center, a sophisticated infrastructure that helped us to watch basically the entire state to make sure that these cases of kidnappings, are stemmed. We had an emergency control number, 739-112, so that any Edo person could call that number any time of the day when in distress, and you receive help. We had ambulances stationed at different parts of the state to help to, salvage these issues. But suddenly, all of those things have gone down the drain. Can I shock you? Edo has gone back to using paper. While I was in government, the government of Rwanda came to Edo State to find out, how have you become paperless? This is novel, on the African continent. And we're able to teach them how we did it using technology. Edo has gone back to paper. If you go to the average civil servant's desk today, you will see a pile of files. People can no longer be effective. People can no longer be efficient. We are able to accommodate our friends who are living with disabilities, so that even if you were blind as a civil servant, you could still be productive using technology. But now these people cannot function because now we've gone back to paper. We have completely destroyed all the technological advancement Edo has made, and these guys have encouraged corruption. Now files can get missing. Now people can say, if you don't give me money, I won't push your files. We had gone past that level of backwardness before in Edo, and sadly, we're having to deal with all these issues again, and it's mind-boggling. The people are wondering, it's been 100 days, just 100 days, and you've destroyed us this much. Can we really continue like this? I mean, the issues that bother the Edo people today are of gargantuan measures. Now we're seeing hooligans, touts, and never-do-wells come back into our streets. This was something that we had done away with before. The government had put in place technology to help to collect revenues from our market women, from our bus drivers. We had appreciated the use of technology to improve society, but now they're bringing back these guys back to the streets. Now they're going with cutlasses and daggers and knives into our marketplaces to harass our mothers and our sisters, to beat up drivers, and the people are wondering, we are a civilized people. How can it be that a, in quote, constitutional government would employ a third party to help to enforce the collection of revenues? That is illegal. That is unconstitutional. And it is so sad that in every facet of the Edo economy, every facet of the Edo life, we're having to make huge losses. Governor Basiki was able to attract $2.5 billion worth of local and foreign investment in the space of 6 years. Now investors are leaving. They have no confidence in the leadership. The man who appears to be governor has no idea what he's doing. The people are in quandary as to where are we? We're having multiple signatures of one governor. I mean, all over social media, there were documents of certificate of occupancies allegedly signed by someone who was the governor. And the signatures do not correspond. And so we're wondering, is somebody impersonating the governor? Or is the governor unable to even sign two documents with the same signature? People are trying to wonder, what is the cognitive ability of those that lead Edo State today?
I need to push this a bit further. I mean, you just, in summary, presented what the immediate past governor had achieved while in office, right? There are those who say that the governor was more elitist in his thinking. They say, yes, whatever he achieved in office was systematic, was strategic. However, it didn't cascade down to the everyday Edo man and Edo woman. What would be your reaction to that?
That makes absolutely no sense. Edo people were seeing their taxes being used for the promotion and the elevation of society. That is why we could increase our tax nets. Those who were avoiding and evading taxes could now see that when we pay these monies, it goes directly to government and not to somebody else. So they had confidence in the system. They were paying their taxes using technology. Is that elitist? Yes. Does that solve the problems of increase in tax revenues? Yes. Number two, Edo civil servants were the highest paid public civil servants anywhere in Nigeria for 8 years. Is that elitist too? Is that helping to put more money in the pockets of people? Is that building confidence in the civil service? The civil service is the engine room of government. And if civil servants are cared for, if they feel included in the governance of the society, then they are more efficient and more effective. How one would say that is elitist? That bothers me. Edo State became the highest producer of oil palm in Nigeria in the space of 4 years. We had an ESOP program, where we put aside 10,000 hectares of farmlands for the cultivation, and production of oil palm. That is why the two companies doing the best at the Nigerian Stock Exchange, Fresco and Okomu, they're from Edo State. We built with the help of investors, 2 ethanol plants, supplying, making it easy for our cassava farmers to now have an avenue to sell their produce, such that we need 50 trucks of cassava daily, and our farmers can even meet the demand. So we're having people now go back to farming, to engage in mechanized farming to make more money. Farmers have become multi-millionaires in Edo State. Is that elitist too? We had a free bus transportation for almost over a year, where people who had difficulties in moving around because of the increase in the cost of gas, fuel in this case, where the government didn't only subsidize it, but it made public transportation free of charge for the Edo people. Is that also elitist? How is it then that in such a short time, the people can see the hopes and the dreams and the celebration of the average Edo nation or average Edo man slip so fast into the gutter, where people are making mockery of us all over the country? People are making merchandise of Edo people, where your governor, they tell me, couldn't even read his own budget figures that he prepared. How can it be that we have such a system? How can it be that government spends money outside of the budgetary allocation of the state and everybody is quiet? How can it be that we're making mockery of our people? We're now bringing touts and hooligans to now be enforcing collection of revenues from our market women and from small businesses? How can it be that Edo State suddenly, people look at us and they think that's, what has happened to you guys? I was in the bank a few days ago, and as I filled the withdrawal slip, a lady asked me, "Are you from Edo State?" I said, "Yes, I am." She shook her head and she tapped me on the shoulder. She said, "We're praying for you." What does that tell you? People knew where Edo was going. We were receiving awards back to back, in the last couple of years. But suddenly, nobody's making reference to Edo State again, except when it has to do with, some form of illiteracy in government.
All right, we're going to take a quick break now, everyone. It's getting a bit more interesting this morning with regards to this conversation. But then there's the big elephant in the room, which is the centrality of this discussion that focuses on this indictment by a panel set up by the state's government under Senator Monday Okpebholo, the executive governor of the state. What exactly are the talking points in this report? We'll find out on the flip side of this break. I'm very sure that you're not ignorant of this report I alluded to just a while ago. What was your first instinct telling you the first time you heard about our report and what the panel has now told the people?
Well, I will start by saying that there are three tiers of government. The federal, state, and local governments. And according to the Constitution, they are all, to that extent, independent and have a high level of autonomy. So, when the governor came in and he started to dabble into local government administration, people were worried that the Supreme Court has come out to tell the world that local governments are autonomous. And so nobody, apart from those who are elected to serve as councillors, has the imprimatur of the Constitution of the people to pry into the eyes of the financials of the local government administration. And so we try to educate the governor to let him know that this is an independent arm of government. You do not have any business trying to find out what they're doing with their monies or what they're doing or what goes on with their financials. The Constitution doesn't give you that authority. So when I saw the reports of how they've put aside some figures, in this government they don't understand. Figures confuse them. So some people were saying it is 97 billion, some said 96. So I was wondering which is which. And I found it interesting. Do you know what they're trying to do? They're trying to take our attention from the brazen theft, from the squandermania, from the fiscal rascality, from the financial irresponsibility that is going on in Edo State just now. And they're trying to get their attention on Governor Obaseki. And when we were leaving government, we had a transition report that told the Edo people, this is exactly where we are, this is what our assets are, this is what the liabilities are. We left assets over 970 billion naira to the succeeding government.
Funds and fiscal.
Total assets, right. We left a debt of about 400 billion. We had 30 billion naira in the treasury account of the state. Etsopadek had 16 billion naira. The ERS had about 2 billion naira. The Ministry of Physical Planning had about 1.8 billion naira. The week we left office, Edo State government received $2.5 million from the World Bank for the Edo Best program. There was another grant of about $5.7 million in grants that the Edo State government received from the World Bank. These are monies that have been received by the Edo State government. And all of these, and most of them, are in our transition report. This is what we're leaving to you. The people have been asking them.
Beyond the transition report,
Yes.
I need to ask, were these monies accessible right from that point when you were transitioning?
100%. When a government leaves, the government that succeeds that government has 100% authority over the financials. And so the people are asking you, you're telling us about the debts. What about the assets that were left for you? What about the monies that were left for you? And we've seen that in 100 days, 30 billion naira, 16 billion here, 2 billion there, they have found a way to transport those monies out of government purses, to private pockets. Now, Edo State has just about 12 billion naira altogether. So we're asking, where's the balance? We left to you about 50 billion naira. Now you have 12. What is going on? So because the people are trying to find out from the government, because the government owes the people financial accountability.
Right.
Because government, is established by the imprimatur of the people. So you owe the people an explanation. So the other people are asking the government, where is these monies? And so because they can't provide answers to these questions, they're talking about Governor Obaseki. Meanwhile, Governor Obaseki did what no other government really did before him. He gave you a total breakdown of all that he's leaving behind. These are contracts that are ongoing. Many of them we have paid for. So we're only, letting you know this is where we are, so we couldn't continue them. And so we're having, different issues, different panels of inquiry, asset verification committee. It's all a lot of noise, trying to cover up the mess that is going on. I just told you that over, 11 billion naira has been given to the relations of the government to purchase vehicles. Are we not going to ask them, on what premise were this money given? Were this money budgeted for in 2024 or even 2025? Was there a state tenders board that approved these contracts? Was there a procurement process? So when you have the people interrogate the government, and the government is running away from the answers and trying to, point the fingers at somebody else, then you leave yourself, exposed, because the people now know what you're trying to hide. So I find no credence in the report that they have made if they are alleging that Governor Basaki or anybody else has engaged in financial misappropriation. It is not your job. There is the EFCC.
The EFCC said he's going to.
No, he doesn't have to. That's what the average man will call Wasabi. The EFCC knows what to do. You don't have to petition anybody. They know they have a constitutional assignment to check financial crimes. Let them do the job. Focus on the reason why you were elected.
You don't think somebody has to draw the attention of the EFCC to this?
I mean, at the beginning of his tenure, they had sent Governor Basaki, letters, so to say, that he's under the EFCC watch. And the man said, I have no sense
of the state government.
No, we were told that the EFCC was saying that Obaseki was under their watch. And the man said, I have nothing to hide. I have over 20 million archive documents, records to show all that we did as a government. So if you want to find out anything, go check the books. And to make it beautiful, we have become technologically savvy. You could check all these things, Google it, and you find out the information. We put all these things out there to be transparent to the people. And Governor Basaki won several awards as being one of the most transparent governors Edo has ever had. And that's because we felt that if we are to appropriate the resources of the people for their benefits, they should know what has been spent and what is not been spent. So the idea of, these guys who are there temporarily, because the other people believe that they're there very, very temporarily, the idea of them having to, put up all forms of committees, this and it's all noise. What the other people want is a roadmap. It's been 100 days. There is no clear-cut direction. We don't know what the plan is in agriculture. We don't know what the plan is in education. We don't know what the plan is in infrastructure. We don't know what the plan is in health. I mean, what the people expect is that in 100 days, there should be policy direction. We should know that, okay, this is what Okpewolo, this is how he thinks. This is the quality of his thoughts, and he wants to infuse those thoughts into the everyday life of the Edo people. And okay, in 2 years' time, we should have this. In 4 years' time, we should have this. These people, they have no idea what governance is all about. They came mistakenly through the back door, and the people are sure that this is not just a temporary government, but this is a government that has started to fail right from the beginning, and it's very shameful, especially because you took over from a very celebrated administration. You took over from a government that was clear on her plans and purpose. You took over from a government that was celebrated by other national governments who were coming in to borrow. I mean, we visited the Concert Technopolis in Kenya as a government, and when we told them what we had done, Edo State is a sub-national. We visited Concert Technopolis, which is owned by the Kenyan national government. And when we were comparing books, we had even surpassed them in technology. And they were wild. You mean a state in Nigeria has all of this? And we are planning to come to visit, to come to learn what we've done. We had a tier 3 data center. We are the only state in Africa to have such a facility. We built, which they've destroyed now, over 3,000 kilometers of fiber optic cables connecting all local government councils in the state. So in every state, there was internet connectivity. In every local government, there was internet connectivity. Tell me wherever that's happened in Nigeria. Edo State we had elevated governance to the point where people were wondering. I mean, we increased IGR from a partly 2 billion naira to almost 7 billion naira. And this was done by taking cutlasses and whips and daggers to the marketplaces. We only told the people, this is what your money can do. So do what is right, stop evading or avoiding taxes, pay your taxes using technology, it gets to the state's purse, and we'll deploy the resources for the people. But that's not what we're saying now. And to further buttress this argument, our governor is unable to express himself before the people. We're told that Adams Oshomole is the one who's going to speak in his stead.
100 days in office?
In commemoration of his 100 days in office. Will
he speak in his stead, or is going to be one of the, as it were, key speakers at the event?
Well, that's not what we're told. Yesterday there was a flyer that was published by the state. He was going to be on ITV. And you see, my dear brother, it's very painful. Most of us have submitted ourselves to some form of enlightenment, some form of education, some form of exposure. It is expected that the governor of a state, the one who superintends over the affairs of the state, should be able to articulate his thoughts and engage with the people that he leads. Is it not a shame where we have a deputy governor, where we have commissioner for information, where we have a special advisor on media, where we have a chief press secretary? These are people who should be able to speak on behalf of the government.
Right.
We're having to have a former governor who is unable to understand that he has left power over 8 years ago, who still wants to impose himself, and belittle the governor. That is exactly what Adam Shimon is doing. You're belittling the people, belittling the government. That's an embarrassment of gigantic proportions. And every Edo person should be ashamed of it. He's making mockery of us. We're not saying you can't express your views as a member of the society. We're not saying you can't express your views as a serving senator. But should you be the one to speak on behalf of government, on what government has done in 100 days, where there's a rating of it who should do that? That's an embarrassment.
Let's wrap this up real quick. As it stands today, for whatever it's worth, your party in the state is left to play the opposition. Now, going to the election last year, September, we saw how that your party, the PDP in the state, had been depleted. For example, pivotal figures, I should say, like Chief Dan Osiobi. People say, for want of better words, were sitting on the fence. But we did know at that point for a fact that they were not with your candidates, Dr. Asue Godalo. Now, like we said earlier, we're not going into the election, aftermath of the election. But can we run away from the fact that your party in that state is more like a house divided against itself right now?
No, I will use those words because, you see, politics is evolving, and Edo State is teaching the world how to play politics. You don't have to be a member of the PDP to support the PDP candidate. We've seen developed democracies do this too. There were former presidents who were Republicans who didn't support Donald Trump, and they were vocal about it. So that Chief Dan Obi didn't support Asue Godalo, that was exclusively his choice. But most of his supporters did, and that is why Asue Godalo won the highest number of lawful votes at the elections.
Given what the PDP, your party, believes about
what the Edo people generally believe.
So leave that to the courts to decide.
Yes, but you see, while the matter is in courts, the people have a right to express themselves too.
Right.
Elections are a reflection of the decisions of the people. So while the courts have a role to play, the people also have their roles to play. So the PDP is not divided. We are solid. You see, what we tried to do was to do some weeding, do some pruning. There were some people that were not going to help us move forward and make progress. There were some people that were bent on, their anger with the governor because, he didn't give me this, he didn't give me that, so I'm not going to support his candidate. And so the people said, it's not about what he's giving to you, but what he's giving to the people. So those who sat on the fence, like you said, or those who openly supported, the opposition, the APC, there's no grudge against them. It's their right to do what they want to do. But at the end of the day, did the Edo people, did they have confidence in Asue Godalo? Were they able to see through him and understand the clarity of his vision? Were they able to see through him and understand the purpose he was bringing into government? Did he make his plan clear to the people? And for that purpose, did they give him the votes? The answer is yes. So the PDP is strong. And we're not just doing or playing opposition. The Edo people are the ones now holding this government to account. The Edo people are the ones really in the opposition, because they are saying that this is not a reflection of our wishes. So we must make sure that while this government serves as temporarily as it will be, we'll make sure they give accounts of their stewardship. And that's what the people are doing. And the PDP is just, like a support system for the people of Edo State.
This is more like an icing on the cake, as they say, right? At the twilight of his first term in office, Governor Godwin Obaseki, who at the point was embattled, because he already knew there was no slim chance the APC would give him that ticket to run for a second term in office, eventually jumped into the PDP and he was welcomed. But I remember very clearly that at that point in time, when he was at the PDP Secretariat to formally obtain his membership card, he did say with emphasis that he had read the constitution of the PDP, and the constitution detailed very clearly that he would be the leader of the party going forward on account of his position as the governor, as he then was. I remember also clearly that the chairman of the party in the States, Dr. Anthony Azedemi, would nod again and again in support of that position. But just maybe a year or two down the line, it will appear that there was conflict on that level. When you look over your shoulder today, do you think there were people who really were not comfortable within the party with the governor being the leader of the party in the state?
Well, I'm going to be as frank as I can. Governor Basque was not my best friend in his first tenure, because then he was in the APC, I was in the PDP, and I did what a politician would do. I criticized his government. Places where I saw that they were failing or they were not doing as should be, I spoke about it. So I was very critical of his government. I was not also very excited when he joined the PDP.
Why was that?
Because I felt that, well, you're just leaving the APC, a party that many of us, many other people do not celebrate, and you're joining the PDP. And we already had, a formula already. And so you were coming to upset that formula. But eventually when he came...
And that formula was you already had people like Uluyama who were interested, who were like Rice Man.
Yes, we already had a structured leadership because we didn't have a governor. But now that the governor was going to come in, that is the constitution. He now automatically becomes the leader.
Right.
And when we now have a new leader, every other leadership must submit themselves.
Is that the constitution, let's be clear, or is it a necessity that political parties and their leaders are created?
Well, I don't know the provisions of the PDP constitution to that extent, but the norm, the tradition of the PDP, and indeed of every political party, is that when you have a governor in your state,
by default it becomes.
Yes, by default he becomes a leader. If he's a leader of the state, then he should be the leader of the political platform on which he assumed power. So people were not very convenient with the style of leadership of Godwin Obaseki because he was coming with a different mindset. And that is why I'm encouraging more people from the private sector to get involved in politics. Let us clean up this system, because politicians have a way of doing their things. The average, regular, professional politicians, where the people's patrimony, they see it as, part of it should be shared, to patronize people. But Godwin said, no, let us do first of all what we're elected to do, serve the people, and so you can become productive in that same venture of serving the people. But many of them didn't share his views. And I don't know the intricacies of what actually happened, the personal beefs, if you like, that they had, but the bottom line was that some people had to step aside for real leadership in the PDP to emerge under Godwin Obaseki, and he handled his politics the way he thought he knew best to. That may not have sat well with some people, but that again, that's fine. There has been no leader who has ruled guiltlessly. So there were some things that may have been done better, but that's, we may not have done the way we should have done as a government. But again, politics is about using the people's power to enrich the people, to deploy their resources to the benefits. That is the ultimate purpose of government. That's the ultimate purpose of politics. And so, if a government is doing that, every other thing is secondary.
All right, great. This is a fine place to leave this conversation, at least for today, because this will be more like a developing story, as we say in journalism. I've been speaking with Honorable Obede Ifalu Isibo. He's the former commissioner in Edo State under the immediate past government of Godwin Obaseki, and is a staunch member of the People's Democratic Party. Thank you for coming.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure.